Welcome, everyone. It's 7:04, and I'd like to call the meeting of the Evanston Preservation Commission to order. We have a quorum, and the first item on the agenda is old business, and it is the construction of the new proposed house at 1222 Dryden Place.
Hi, thank you. So I do have some materials to hand out. These are floor plans with the elevation, and this is the application, and the version that I sent to Carlos did not address the standards, which are, he said it's okay. It's not. It's fine. Okay. Just for your information, I have been working with an architect to start to bring these into a permanent line stage. So the commission requested that I go back to the drawing board a bit and kind of refine the design, and after some consideration, I think the suggestions that were made at the last meeting were actually very positive, and I'm pleased with the revisions that were made, and hopefully you feel the same way as well. So the application, I believe the application that was included last time around was the first application from several months ago, and so this application has the correct materials and correct exterior conditions that reflect this design. It is a brick and stone building with a metal roof, patina copper metal roof, and some small metal awnings over the French doors on the west elevation. And I've included the copper collection boxes and downspouts that would facilitate drainage from the roof, which were not actually shown in detail on the last application, the last version of the design. The site plan has remained virtually the same, very, very modest change with respect to the north elevation and the new entry to the north elevation. So the first floor plan is essentially the same. Again, the entry has changed slightly, and it's more visible on the elevation, which we will get to. The second floor has changed more substantially. I needed to reorganize. The bedrooms have the larger bedroom on the north elevation to accommodate windows that would be in rhythm with the pattern of openings on the rest of the building. That's the major change. The landscape plan will be essentially the same. Again, two lots combined, and the water feature here, which is shown on your plans. So the west elevation has changed with respect to how the front elevation and the entry has been redesigned. I've also added these copper collection boxes and downspouts. There will be no eaves on the roof. There'll be water collected behind the parapet wall. I've also taken out the roof windows that were shown on the first one. They just, frankly, didn't work on a building of this scale. So I think it's an improvement there. The south elevation has been redesigned completely using the same upper and lower level windows here and smaller windows in the middle, showing the collection boxes and downspouts that would be on the south elevation, aligning the attic elliptical window with the one on the north elevation, which you will see. This is the new north elevation, which has been completely redesigned. So we have a main entry that has the double door, which is consistent with other openings on the first floor, and it has then these same windows that also appear on the first level. The second level windows, again, are consistent here. There is a modification of the double windows here above the front door to provide, I think, a nicer rhythm of openings. The elliptical window in the attic is the same and aligns with the one on the south elevation. So I think, all told, this has a much more regular design, and the organization of the windows and doors, I think, is in keeping with the overall character of the design concept. The east elevation has also been redesigned, so we have these same first and second floor windows here. We have a double window, and this is actually on the above the landing on the staircase. So we have that, and then we have 4 windows. One is in the garage itself. This is the powder room, and 2 in the master bedroom for a more regular pattern of openings here on the east elevation. I've shown the chimney pipe for the fireplace, which will be visible, particularly on the south elevation. It needs to extend 1 foot above the roof, peak of the roof, so that's shown here. The 3Ds, so this is the north elevation shown in 3D and in scale with the building to the east. So the house to the east actually has a higher vertical distance from the ground to the roof level here, and then a lower slope on the roof level. So this is a lower elevation to the top of this parapet wall, and a slightly steeper roof elevation, essentially the same height. This is a 3D looking from Dempster Street, looking northwest. This has not changed. Actually, it has changed. So I have to apologize. I didn't change out these 2 windows here, which will be the double windows that you will see on the south elevation. My apologies there. But the scale, the overall scale, is the same. And this is from the south east, and here you see these changes in the windows here, I believe. The roof windows have been taken out, and it really picks up, I think, a similar rhythm of openings and scale of the houses to the east and the west. This is the rendering of the patio space, the terrace that would be on the lot to the west, the open space lot, the yard lot, and here you can see how the detailing of the windows and the stone and the brick would work together. So I believe the house does meet the standards. I think the proportion of the openings is very much in keeping with other single-family houses in the immediate area. The 2 houses directly to the west on the corner, and the 1244 house is consistent. This is a different rhythm of openings, but the overall proportion of openings, I believe, is consistent with this. The mansion is obviously a little different kind of building, much larger, but I think the rhythm of openings is consistent, and the 1212 Dryden Place house, again, is of a different design. The openings are not as regular on all elevations, but I believe the proportion is consistent. The rhythm of solids to voids on the front facade, so it's actually a little difficult to see the the front facades on all of these buildings, the ones that back up to Dempster in particular, and there's some questions to what the front and the back is, because zoning treats this as the front. But in any case, I believe the rhythm, particularly on these three houses here, and frankly, the Dryden Mansion, the rhythms are very comparable. In terms of the rhythm of the front entrance and the porches and recesses and other projections, the entries to the houses all have either a recessed entry or a slightly projecting entry, and we have that here with the stone surround for the 1222 house. So I believe it is consistent in that regard. Relationship of materials and textures. So this is a brick and stone building. It is, the same as the two houses to the west. It is consistent with the Dryden Mansion, which is brick and stone. There are other houses that have different materials. The 1212 house is stucco and cedar, and the temple across the street, it has a similar metal roof to what I will have. It has some stone, it has some brick and other materials. So obviously there's a variety of materials used on houses in the immediate area. I think brick and stone is the most common material used, and I'm consistent with that. The roof shape, I believe, is also consistent with what's in the area. The Dryden Mansion has I believe it's a combination of a gable and a hip roof. That is what we have here. A gable on this side, a hip on this side, and we have that condition here as well. This is a hip roof, a gable roof in the front. So there are a variety of roof styles. Obviously, this is more of a free-form roof, but a sloped roof nonetheless. This standard here talks about walls that appear, and I just put this in here to show that the water wall feature that I'm having is not inconsistent with other features, all the wall features that exist within the district, whether they're the pilasters for entries, the stone walls along ridge itself, these entry features. So it's not uncommon to have a masonry feature as part of a house design. The scale of the structure is very consistent. It's essentially the same as these two houses. I believe it's very comparable to the 1212 house as well, and I believe that's the 1331 Asbury property. Direction of expression on the front facade. So again, the houses that back up to Dryden Place all have their entrances actually on, the houses that back up to Dempster have their entrances on Dryden Place. This actually has, a facade that looks like a front facade on both the Dempster side and the Asbury side, as does this. And actually, I believe the 1222 house has a facade facing Dempster that's comparable to a front facade. I don't believe any of these standards directly apply to my property, so I won't go over them. But that explains the, sorry, that's the next item, I guess. So I think I've gone over the revisions to the project, revisions to the design, which, again, I think are quite positive. I hope you agree, and I'm anxious to hear what you think.
Thank you. Was there any members of the audience that wanted to make public comment on this application? Good. And be sure to sign in and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello again. I'm Randy Smith. My wife Sharon and I own the property at 1212 Dryden Place, which is next door. And as I spoke last month, our biggest issue relates to the volume and height of the building. And I appreciate particularly the fact that the commissioners asked for a view from the north looking south, because I think what was page 12 in the packet really kind of highlights what our concern is. Last month, what was available was a 3D rendering, which is page 13 in the packet. And there was a question as to whether that was fully accurate, and actually, it does seem a bit distorted. As Mr. James has indicated, the top of our second story, which is where the gutter is 25 and a half feet high. The roof line of the proposed is 23 feet. So as I pointed out, and he did as well last week, if you compare those lines, yes, ours is a little bit higher, although if you look at page 13, it looks like a lot more than a 2.5-foot difference. And I think the key factor for us is that our roof slopes at a 2-to-1 ratio, and from the ground level looks relatively flat, whereas the design feature, as Mr. James called it last month, of the roof on the proposed house, goes much higher. So our whole house, if you look at the top of the roof line, is 31 feet. The new proposal is 34 feet when you count the, I don't know what you call it, like steeples at the end. And the roof line in total is much more visible from the street. So I know that statements have been made about how comparable the sizes are. I would remind the commissioners that the footprint of this house is of the proposed house is about 13% larger than the average footprint of the 3 existing houses. But the real issue is the size, the height of it. And it's exacerbated a bit by the curve and narrowing of Dryden Place as you move to the east, and the arrangement of the lots. Ours is more horizontal along Dempster, whereas this lot is more vertical across Dempster, or from Dempster. And as a necessary outcome of that, the proposed house is going to extend further north than ours. And as you approach our house, I mean, their house is bigger, but that's something you can't avoid. But I think you can question the size and height of the front of this proposed building. I would also point out, in terms of proportions relative to the neighborhood, although the plan that Mr. James has put together is to use the 2 lots that he has for one house. The city has made clear that the lot to the west of this proposed house is still a buildable lot, with the removal of the water feature and some of the hardscape that creates some of the park-like environment that Mr. James has in mind at the moment. Somewhere down the road, there could be another house put in there. So our concern really is, as Mr. James showed last month, the inspiration for this design came from a rather sizable chateau out in the landscape somewhere out in the country, and a question about the ability to fit that into this particular historic district. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to comment?
Yeah,
on that at
I
all?
would. So a couple of things. At the first meeting, there was objection because this house, if it stood on its own lot, the eastern lot, it would require variances, and that was an objection, and the house was scaled down to remove that objection. And so now the complaint is, well, you could actually now build a house on the open space lot without needing a variance for the house that is on the east. So I guess I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. With respect to the scale, you know, I think it must be said that the Dryden Mansion towers over the 1212 houses. It will tower over this house. And so in terms of, you know, the scale of the area, you know, I mean, I'm building within the allowable limits, actually below the allowable limits of height here. I actually have a roof terrace above the garage, which reduces the bulk from the north, so I think that is something that mitigates the concern that was raised. I think I think you can't look at just one property and establish scale and character of the district based on one house. This is very consistent with the other houses that are built in this Asbury Ridge subdivision, particularly the two houses to the west. And so I think it is very consistent, very harmonious with the overall character of the area. It would be, frankly, very difficult to change the height of this house. I'm not sure if we're talking about the roof structure itself or the overall height, but it would really, kind of work against the overall concept to be adjusting the height of the house. And the peak, the peak of the roof is, I believe I'd have to look, but 1.5 feet or 2 feet below the top of the projecting gable wall, and so and the roof is lower to the east than it is on the portion that's to the west as well. So the portion to the east is probably lower than the height of the 1212 house.
Okay, any comments from the commissioners or questions?
You know what, I'm sorry, I was just looking at this. I'm sorry, the gentleman before you who spoke, what was the height, I'm sorry, I was just trying to write down the height of the datum you have before your roof of your house. What was that? You gave that to us.
There are two heights. One is that the height of the second floor, the top of the gutter,
Yeah, what was that?
is 25.5 feet.
Okay,
And then the top of the roof is 31 feet, but it doesn't look like it's 31 feet.
thank you. Well, I think the design has gotten significantly more cohesive, and thank you for that. From the last time, it has. It seems like, it was thought through on every elevation, simplified, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question, but it might be going to Scott. Sorry about that. There is a zoning analysis dated March 7th in here in this packet, and it keeps mentioning things not compliant. And I don't understand if it's saying these are, where it talks about eliminate, if analyzed, it's compliant. So can you explain that?
Sure, Commissioner Dudnick. The description here analyzes it if it's one complete lot with both the eastern and western lot included, and then notes how it could become compliant if it were to be analyzed as only the eastern lot separately. So that the applicant could reduce some impervious surface, the overhangs for the awnings, and that water feature accessory structure to be compliant as only a single home on a single eastern lot.
So am I correct that you're not consolidating these lots?
Well, I don't believe there is a need to consolidate them. It seems like an unnecessary step. I am submitting it as one house on two lots. I'm going to sell it as one house on two lots. If you look at other houses in Evanston that are on two lots, those side lots have remained side lots forever. I've actually asked people to sell them to me, and they won't sell them to me. So I don't think this would ever be sold as a building lot. And frankly, whatever you can, well, if you consolidate, then the city would have to approve a re-subdivision, and it is possible that the city could, approve a re-subdivision if the owner wanted to then re-subdivide. So with respect to the the impervious surface, I just want to mention that both the 1256 and 1244 Dryden houses, which I built, both needed variances for impervious surface, primarily due to the fact that the Dryden Place private drive is part of the lot area and is counted as impervious surface. And so that's why. On its own, the eastern lot would not be compliant due to impervious surface, but would be actually much more compliant than those two previous houses that I mentioned, which were given variances on impervious surface.
So if I'm correct, we're looking at this as a single house on the eastern lot with a landscaped yard, which is really a separate property. But
I mean,
a lot of your renderings,
And I think the zoning, the point of the zoning review is that it's zoning compliant only if you consider it as one huge lot. And that-
Presently.
Presently.
Right.
And so it would become non-compliant if someone attempted to.
well, with the
build on the
exception
other
that according to this, you simply deal with the water wall and a couple of other things, take down the canopy over one of the doors,
Right,
and then
there'd
it's
be-
compliant, and
there'd
there'd
have
be
to
a
be-
house 10 feet away.
It wouldn't just be someone starts building, they'd have to modify this other parcel as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wonder how people would feel about putting a single house on the eastern lot and then building another house on this lot. I mean, if that's preferable to the neighbor, you know, or maybe, I mean, I thought that leaving a lot of open space would be something that would be desired and appreciated. So it seems like you're looking at this a little awkwardly.
Well, how are we then evaluating this if this is two lots and then we say, oh, it has to be, you have to take certain elements off? And is that how we're evaluating this? I mean, this project,
No,
what are we
I
doing?
think we're evaluating the project as proposed, and the understanding is that the project as proposed requires that that western lot stay vacant to meet zoning. And so it sort of locks in that lot as open space by zoning. So there'd be, if anyone 50 years from now wants to build on that western lot, they'd have to come back and get approval for changes to both properties.
Okay, well, I'm still confused because if it's non-compliant, if it's looked at as two lots and not combined, then how is that?
They are not seeking for building a house in one lot, they're seeking to build a house in two lots, and that's why it's compliant.
It is compliant.
If they were to subdivide, then they would
Understand.
have to remove certain
Understand.
aspects.
Why are we looking 50 years out? I mean, if somebody buys this house after he completes it, I'm assuming you're not planning to live there.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Then they're free to do whatever they want with that adjoining lot a day after they buy it.
Obviously they would be in front of this commission asking for permission, and we'd have to count on the record to be clear that it was.
To remove from what I can see, a canopy on their house, because the improvements in the lot have nothing to do with us, technically. I mean, all the other things that are being removed, from what I see in the zoning analysis, is the hardscape, the water fountain feature, and some other things, so with the exception of the awnings,
Right, it's like,
That would be
you're
the
gonna
only-
market it like, if you buy this house and you get rid of your water feature, you have a sellable lot. right?
No, I'm not going to market it
not,
that way,
no.
sorry.
Carl,
I mean, the
you're
way the
thinking
house
like
is
a realtor.
designed, is that all the views are oriented to the west over that open space. And so if somebody were to build a house there, all of these views would be looking on another house that would be 10 feet away. I think it would be ridiculous for somebody to want to do that, and to frankly modify the house so that you're not looking directly at another house 10 feet away. So I think it is not plausible to be concerned about another house being built on this. on the open space lot, and you have the authority not to approve that. And there would be really a lot of work, and it would ruin the design of this house to make the modifications to allow that to happen.
In picture number 12, they seem like super close together, 1212 and 1222. Like the garage for that like north, or I guess it'd be like
Is east.
east corner, yeah. How far apart?
Are you
those two
looking-
houses
At this?
are? Yeah, right there.
Okay. There would be 5 feet from this edge to the property line, and I would have to check, I mean, so there's this kind of feature, this angled feature that comes out. It's in the range of 10 to 12 feet apart. I mean, probably if you exclude this feature here, from wall to wall, it's probably about 12 feet or 13 feet, something like that.
And that's zoning compliant, right?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Okay?
Look at the drawing. They're 10 and a half feet apart. It's compliant, but it's not 13 feet.
Well, okay, so you're,
It's not your
you,
drawing.
okay? I have
That's
your
these-
house cited
that's
on my
these
drawing?
people.
Okay. So,
It just looks closer than it is.
okay. So he has 5 feet, 5.5 feet, I would have 5 feet. So we're equal in terms of the setback.
Any other questions or comments?
So basically, you can't get rid of the fountain and build a house next door.
Again, that would be a completely different hypothetical project that would have to come before this commission for review, and I think we'd have to rely on having good minutes of this meeting to know that it was intended to be the yard for the 1222 house, and that the 1222 house was approved with the notion that that was going to remain open.
But you can't force somebody to
We
keep
can't,
it.
we can't force something 5 years from now.
How big is the side lot? How big is, what's the dimensions of the?
55 feet,
It's a buildable lot, Carl.
yeah.
It's 55 by.
55, I don't know the length of it. Again, it includes the Dryden Place private drive in the lot area to the north.
100 by 55.
Oh, it's more than, it's longer than, that.
I think we have to focus on the
Yeah,
project that's being
yeah,
presented.
yeah,
We can't go
yeah.
down the rabbit hole of
And
what
as long
someone
as
might
it-
do
yeah.
someone in the future.
And so this whole feature here with all of these windows looking out on the western lot, I think it would, again, be very implausible for somebody to want to destroy the main feature of this house, this design, to build a house potentially 10 feet away from it.
Well, that's why I asked if you were consolidating, because you're not protecting it. I mean, those windows are 7
But-
feet,
but-
those windows and doors are 7 feet from the property line.
But Elliot, I don't think that's, that's irrelevant to our discussion, I think, in
Well,
terms
but we're
of.
reviewing this drawing as if it's part of the house, and what we're saying is that whole...
So if the canopies came,
No, I'm not
but-
talking about the canopies, I'm talking about that entire space.
But
would
you're looking at the
disappear.
house, though.
That you would be able to build something closer or about the same distance as their house is. from
I
this
mean,
point.
I don't-
That's why I'm
that's always the
asking.
way it is. I mean, there's open land that
Yeah.
can be built on, but we have to focus
Okay.
on the project at
As
hand.
long as it's, compliant zoning.
I'd just like to add that if it were to be subdivided, the commission will review and make a recommendation to the council. If they propose a new house on, let's say, hypothetically speaking, on the vacant lot, it has to comply with zoning. And if there are conditions under which the current design will have to be compliant by removing certain aspects of it, that's part of the record. So what we have is, one house and 2 lots.
Just ask for one clarification here. Mr. Ruiz, you've twice stated if it was subdivided.
Yes.
That's a legal term, If they're two separate lots, would someone have to come to request it to be created as two separate lots?
To clarify, you're correct. There are two separate lots, and so unless they were consolidated, there would not be a need to subdivide them.
Thank you.
If there's no final questions tied back to the proposed design, are we willing to entertain a motion?
Can we ask that the lots be put together when you approve it?
I don't know how that works in this instance.
Scott, can you address this? I mean, from,
Because I love this. I just want this to be what's there, not like something,
yeah.
because like everybody knows that you could just, whatever.
Yeah, again, I don't think, the owner of the house, especially if you were to subdivide off, if you were to build on the open space lot, the value of this house would go way down, would plummet. And so anything you would get, frankly, for that lot would be far outweighed by the money you'd lose on the value of this house. And anything that you do, whether you consolidate or not, I mean, anything can be undone legally if you're talking about some kind of legal union. I mean, I would, if, I don't think this is really a relevant issue, but if it came down to, being a deciding factor to you, I would be willing to put a restrictive covenant on the open space lot with making the city as a party to that, so that they would have to, they would have to approve any change of that, being built upon.
Well, I guess my question is, if this gets approved, then it has to be that we're approving it based on one lot, because some of it is non-compliant if it's two lots. So if we approve it, we're going to say based on one lot. And then if something happens, but as long, so I don't understand this, I mean, I understand what Elliot's saying. It's a little tricky because we are approving it based on one lot in this design because of certain features that the house has.
Right.
So we just say that, right?
I mean, that's the way I bought the property. I bought two lots.
So we're going to say it's like per one lot, and if it somehow something happens, it comes back again.
Because it's non-compliant if it's two lots.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, any other
So-
development would have to be reviewed here, and it would be part of the record that could be reviewed at that time.
I don't want to prolong it, but it's only non-compliant based on the size of the lot on the right. But that's a 55-foot lot, and given the dimensions, you probably, and Scott can tell us, you could probably reduce it to probably a 50-foot lot, and it would probably still meet all the zoning requirements, which means that I could replat it and never have to touch the house on the east.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure. I think if you were to reduce 5 feet, it wouldn't be non-compliant due to lot area in the R1 district.
Well, I thought it was fairly large. I didn't think R1 needed that large of a lot.
It looks like the total lot size is 14,617 square feet, and 7,200 is required per R1, so it's
So
pretty close to the,
So you could, what I'm saying is you could slice off part of this and leave it with the house that's built, and then nobody has to come before the commission, Carlos, to worry about changes to that house. Because,
And it would
No, no,
require
only for the new
re-subdivision.
house,
That
but
would
not for
require
the old house.
re-subdivision.
what I'm saying is you'd never have to worry about let's call it the
But
existing
why don't we
house.
just say, why don't we just say in the scenario, this is one lot, and we are approving it based on this as one lot? And then if we say that, because that's what it is, then it's like, if it isn't that, if something happens, then
But it's not one lot.
to clarify, it's one zoning lot.
one zoning lot.
Zoning lot.
We can't control what happens.
I mean,
No,
I
I
don't
know, I'm saying that.
I'm just saying we're
We're making
approving
a
it
record
as
of what
one
our
zoning
assumption-
lot.
I agree.
Okay, so can Should I make a motion? Okay, but if I miss some terminology, I add it in. I make a motion that we approve a certificate of appropriateness for 1222 Dryden Place, and I want to specify that it's on one zoning lot, and those, is there numbers for those, the zoning lot?
It's 1222 and 1232.
1222 and 1232 for new construction 1 through 14 and 16, applicable standards.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Jamie? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Elliot and Robert.
Who's opposed?
Great. Thank you so much.
Who was opposed?
Is that 5 to 2? Next up is new business. We have the house at 2767 Euclid Park Place.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Ross. I'm the homeowner along with my spousal unit, Nancy Ross. I'm not talking about lot lines. I'm not talking about combining lots. I'm not talking about water features. I'm not talking about windows. All I'm talking about is one item, which is roof. Mr. Ruiz, do you have or do I have the ability to?
You have the ability to switch with the device, and there is a star at the top that is the pointer, and left and right to go up and down.
Left and right goes up and down.
Yes, there's 2 arrows.
All right, let's try that. Good. Proposal. And I direct your attention to expanded Section B, which lays out the reasons for the proposal, which is basically to use a synthetic or composite cedar roofing material in lieu of the currently degraded cedar roof. This section here, I think, lays out the reasons for the change, the requested change. So that's proposal 1, and proposal number 2 is to increase the size of the exposed shingle on the eaves. And it may be easier to look at some pictures to understand the latter point. But the major reason for the proposal in terms of the change in material, quite frankly, is cost. In a perfect world, I would replace the current roof with the exact same material, design, what have you. I've got 2 different roofing contractors who have advised against that, most particularly with respect to the eave exposure. I make this proposal with mixed feelings because you need to know that I report to a much higher authority than this committee. And that higher authority I've been reporting to for 37 years, and I have been directed by my spousal unit to replace the roof and make it look exactly the same way it did, or it does now. And that's what the intent is. Get into some pictures and show. This is the roof looking straight down. There's a nice, pretty picture of the house. It looks great, I think, until you get up close to the roof. I planted the flower box, for the record. Here's the eave issue. Both contractors tell me that the stacked eaves, which is made of very small pieces of cedar, okay, is basically unstable. It deteriorates. It deteriorates because you've got smaller pieces, so more places for water to get in. Each of these pieces has to be nailed in, and we'll see some pictures later. You'll just see the deterioration. The proposal is to lengthen the shingle exposure, as in the middle there. I've actually gotten a number of different options from the builders on how much exposure to put in. You can do it with 8 runs. You can do it with 16 runs of shingles. But you don't want to do it with the 24 or more, which is what's currently there. If I sound like I know what I'm talking about, I can assure you I don't. I am parroting what I'm told. Okay? This example of what's happening to the roof. If the top is, it looks solid, but it's basically rotting out. And there's, as listed in that section B, there's a number of reasons why it's rotting out, only some of which I can control. I can't control the slope. I can't control the moisture level in Evanston. I suppose I could control the black stain, but it would look pretty weird with any other color, frankly. And it's been black as far as I can tell for a long time. But that also raises an issue with the preservation. Here's an example, another example of the eaves. Some of the eaves, it just rots out. Some of the rotting has been assisted by the local squirrel population. But the end result is the entire roof needs to be replaced. Here we have a picture of a roof which is somewhat similar to what mine is. You can see two things on this roof. One is the shingle exposure on the bottom of the eave and the side is what I'm proposing. You can see the wave pattern in it. This is a roof that's made with the synthetic material which is being proposed. Spoke with Mr. Ruiz and he suggested I bring down some samples. So I can hand them up to you. I don't know. Start at the end. I'll handle it will. I think this is the same house at another angle, again, with the synthetic shingle. And that may or may not be the same house, but again, with the synthetic shingle, which, unlike my roof, there's a 50-year warranty on the synthetic shingles. If I have any other pictures. Oh, here's a close-up of the, I just copied this out of the web page of the shingle company that the contractors are recommending. I think this is just different colors of the shingles that are being passed around. Contractors, everything you wanted to know about composite cedar shingles. I frankly didn't really want to know anything about them until I had to replace the roof. And then I got very interested. And I got very interested for a number of reasons, not the only one of which was cost. By my guesstimation, I've spent over $100,000 in repairs on this roof since I moved in 22 years ago. Okay. Depending on what option you use with the eaves, in terms of the exposure, depending on whether you use the cedar or the synthetic shingles, I now have the opportunity to spend either slightly more or slightly less than $275,000 for a new roof. Now, if you take the 275 and the 100 I've already spent, I think that's more than the price of the average house in Evanston. Now, why that's a relevant factor, I don't know, but it just bugs me. So what my basic thinking is, and as I said, I make this proposal with mixed emotions, is if I'm going to spend that amount of money for a new roof, I'd really like to put something in that lasts, okay? That I don't have to keep shelling out money for. If someone is looking at the roof, synthetic roof, and they stare real closely, right, it may be possible for somebody to tell that it's not cedar shingles, except the synthetic shingles are made to look like cedar shingles. So for most everybody looking at the roof, including, I hope, my spouse, it will look the same. As I said, that's what my goal is to replicate the existing roof as much as possible, because I think it's unique, I think it's beautiful, and I like it. But since I'm advised of the problems with the stacked eaves and the synthetic composite shingles are, guaranteed for 50 years, that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Glad to answer any questions, if I know.
I have a,
How old is the roof now?
that's what I was going to ask.
Well, I believe, as I say on the bottom of, let me go back here, I believe the year before I bought it in '96, because I lived not far from it, it was substantially, if not completely, redone, because one, I remember I certainly was concerned about the roof, but I remember construction had blue tarps over the whole thing. So I can't tell you whether it was 100% replaced or 90% replaced, but it was substantially done. And the various contractors and inspectors that have come in have said it's approximately 30 years old. Okay. Which you would think, geez, 30 years to your roof? What's he complaining about? Well, what I'm complaining about is the $100,000 I've put into it to get it to there. Because fixing this roof is sort of like a dentist fixing cavities. You find the bad spots, you fix them up, restain it, wait a couple of years, find more cavities, fix them up, restain it. So the entire roof is, say, roughly 30 years old, but, well, I mean, excuse me, not 30, 97, 107, it's actually 22 years old. And the only reason, well, let's put it this way. It's 22 years old. I'm told it has to be totally replaced. And I've already put $100,000 in it just to get it to where it is now.
But you didn't make you're sort of doing spot areas of decay.
Yes.
And
Yes,
so the entire roof was replaced a while ago. So I'm sorry, are you,
Yeah, if you look at,
should we make a comment?
where do I have it? This one's neat. Yeah, there you go. Here's a cost history. Just put down number 3 here. So it's in 96. I bought it in 97. And then here are 3 years, and this is what I paid each year.
One question I had about the different repairs, have those been mainly focused on this curved eave detail, or it's been random repairs throughout the whole roof, or is it really this curved eave detail is the problem?
Like Harry Belafonte said, everybody sing out the chorus, everywhere. I mean, of the current roof, one of the questions I've asked the contractors is, what about the part that's only 10 years old from 2009? You know, can that be salvaged? And their answer is, well, yeah, maybe, but you probably only got another 10 years worth of time on it anyway. So, you know,
I mean,
what basically, you know, why would you want to?
one of the problems this is a landmark house, and one of the strong characteristics, as you know, of this house is the roof.
Absolutely.
And so when you take it and you put in a material that resembles plastic, even though it's going to, you know, obviously it's going to wear better than this, it is just such a difference in terms of the material that it is, I mean, it's a hard one. That's what I want to say. And
I love your house. I love going by it.
yeah, and when you look at the standards, so here we have the standard number 2. It's the distinguishing original qualities or character of a property, structure, site, or object and its environment shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of any historic material or distinctive architectural feature shall be avoided wherever possible, except when retention represents a hazardous or dangerous condition. So it's difficult. It's a difficult one. What can I say?
Yeah, well, the difficult condition is the roof falling down, but I understand. It's
Yeah.
not, it's, that's a high standard and, in my opinion, a proper standard. But I guess what I was looking to was the number 6, which talks about in the event replacements necessary, the new material should match the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. I'm told that that's what this will do, right? But can I guarantee it? Let me put it this way. If I go with a synthetic and it doesn't match, as I said, I've got a much bigger bigger problem with a different higher authority. But your basic point that you're replacing a cedar structure with a composite, a synthetic structure is absolutely correct. Okay, and the fact that it's 95% recycled materials, well, that's nice, but doesn't swing it for me on that issue. But that's why I said I've got the same mixed feelings. I'm not coming to the commission saying that I'm going to burn down the house if you don't approve the proposal. I'm just telling you, I'm not, I'm just trying to come up with the best option. If any of you happen to be, roofing experts, I would be glad to get advice and counsel. Because working with my contractors, who I think are both good, but sort of like, asking the barber if you need a haircut. If anybody has any expertise here, I'd appreciate it. But I mean, I'm told, for example, that this style roof, by the way, some of you may know is from a fellow named, an architect named Zook, was on the in the western suburbs, Oak Park. There's actually, I think I have a picture of it. His house, his own house has this roof, and it's got cedar shingles on it, but they've moved away from the, well, they've extended the exposure of the eaves. And if I can pull out a copy of it, I'll impress myself.
I think, just to expand on what you were saying, Julie, is the standard number 5 that talks about the distinctive stylistic features. I think one of my concerns just is how that eave is going to look after it's changed and how that changes the actual character of the roof. It is an example of a craftsmanship type, element. So I understand the concerns with the replacement material not being the same, but I actually have more concerns about how it looks once those eaves are changed in detailing. I think I would have, I think that would be discouraged, would be my opinion on that, so.
Well, that was a question I had, which
Here's
is,
the picture. I'm not challenging your point, but here's the Zook house, and this is from one of the contractors' advertising material they did it. And you can see they've,
Do you have, the roofing contractors that propose this solution to do at the eaves, do they have historic examples that have done this, and other than the one that you had showed in the proposal, that have this type of application on the eaves? Or is this just
Yeah,
something
no,
that
they've got-
they've kind of developed based on deterioration?
I think they call it their cottage style, if I remember correctly. It may actually be in that booklet there, where they've, see if I can,
It just seems like the historic application was usually a stacked element, and that's the character of that style. So by creating that curved appearance, it would really kind of change, I think,
I mean, it would still be curved, it just would, you'd have the shingle exposure would be greater. There may be some pictures in that other.
well, Sue, where is she? Hi. And Julie, well, both of you, how, are there photos there? Because it is that question of the stacked eave portion.
These are all wood, so.
But I think I'm looking at this, yeah, all right, so when we look at that stacked eave and we look at the size of those pieces, how do they intend to do it with this element?
Oh,
Because I'm looking at,
they tell me the exact same way. Okay. As a matter of fact, what I asked them was, I said, well, if the problem with the stacked eaves was or is deterioration, that can't be an issue with the synthetic cedar shingles. So why don't we do the synthetic cedar shingles in the stacked style?
What are they proposing to do
And they
there?
said
I don't
they've
understand.
never done it.
What is it that they're
Oh,
going to do
well,
in that
then
area?
maybe-
I'm sorry, in which area?
Well, where you're saying they're not going to use the synthetic, what you're calling the stacked eve edge,
Right.
what are they proposing to do?
You see the box with the curved eave edge?
Yeah,
That's a picture superimposed
oh,
on that to show you what it
Oh.
looked like. That's not what it looked like now. Right now, it's got the stacked eave goes all the way from circle to circle.
oh.
And have they
Glad
done
I
that
asked.
before?
Have they done?
I just heard Sue say, have they done that
That
curved
curved-
eve detail before?
Yes, that's what those pictures are.
That's from that house overlooking the lake that you
But I
have in
thought that
the
was
middle.
wood.
All right.
No, that was the composite.
Oh, okay.
So they're proposing to use this detail all the way around.
Yes. And as I said, I haven't counted it, but their proposal, if I have it, and they've given me some optional proposals. The,
Aluminum fascia.
see if I have it here, where you can have a different number of, what do you call it? A row of shingles. Rows, we'll call them rows. Good. You can have a different number of rows, so let's see if I can find. Yeah.
Have they discussed what's behind this and what the condition is? I mean, you pull these shingles off, I can only imagine what you're going to find. If this is all rotting, I mean, have they given you any estimate of what they're going to have to do to reconstruct this?
No, except they said to me, that's not included in the
Yeah.
75 rent.
So guess what? You're going to be back to the 100.
You know, okay, here's a suggestion, and I don't know what we're going to decide tonight, but for you, like, if you're really concerned, which I totally believe you are about this roof on this landmark house, then this company should do a mock-up for you of an eave condition, and you should look at it because that is how you are going to judge the house.
Yes.
And until you do that, it seems deceptive to me to imagine that that particular material is going to be a duplicate for a wood shingle. And so, you know, whatever we decide tonight, I think that is something, it's going to be expensive enough that you're going to want to do that. So that's just a suggestion.
And I think it's an excellent suggestion, and frankly, it's one that Mr. Ruiz
Yeah.
made as well. And I agree, because I can show you you can look at the pictures of the synthetic, the synthetic shingles, and it, I don't know, it looks pretty good to me. But it's nothing like seeing it in the flesh, so to speak.
Well, they're also not doing that type of an eave detail.
The next one doesn't.
No, see, it's only the surface. You don't have it on the eaves, Carl. It is in these.
I think it is, you see where the rock is? Like right above the rock, I think
It's
that's,
here. See, this is, yeah,
yeah.
this is fabulous.
So I know that one of the thoughts was getting a guarantee for the lifespan of the roof. Have you sought out a cedar shingle contractor that could give you that? You take ownership of the entire thing as opposed to spot repairs here and there?
Oh, well, the proposal which I've got, which I don't seem to be able to get my hands on right this moment, has a maybe it's a 10-year guarantee. What needs to happen I can get you that information in terms of what what they're saying, but it's not.
50.
It's not the same. Okay, and you know, frankly, I don't blame them. These contractors, by the way, the main contractor, the folks who are out of the Panhandle of Florida, they're the folks who've done all these same repairs over the years. They were the people who did the repairs back in '96, or the repairs of the replacement in '96. But I don't think they're going to give. Well, I'm trying to. Here we go. Okay, so to answer a couple questions. They've given me a price for simply replicating the roof with a stacked shingles, which they don't recommend. They've given me a price with using cedar, but increasing the length of the exposure on the shingle and going with courses. That's the word I was looking for. Doing with 8 courses or doing it with 15 courses. Or they've given me the option of doing the synthetic cedar with the 8 courses or the 15 courses. And to answer your question now about guarantees, well, I'm not saying they didn't give me one or they're not giving me one, but I don't see any here. By the way, just for further information, the synthetic cedar shingles are actually more expensive than the whole roof. I'm not saying there's no guarantee for the cedar ones, but I'm not finding it right now, and let's see.
To kind of bring this to conclusion a little bit, does anyone else
What,
have
you don't want to
any,
spend the rest of the evening talking about cedar shingles?
anyone else have any kind of specific questions or clarifications, or?
Well, I'm really confused. The 2 brochures are all of wood shingles. So there's no brochure that shows something like it doing this, with the exception of the photo behind you and probably the next photo, which does some funny things at the ridges that don't even occur on this house that we're talking about. But, I mean, that's probably less of an issue. I think, Julie, your point is really a good one, that you'd almost have to see it mocked up, you know, whether on the ground or something, even if they can't tear off the house. Because I think it's both for his benefit and everybody else's as to what this really is going to look like. And not just, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Because then you will have spent
Right.
an inordinate amount of
And
money.
I think it's important, I mean, this company, Huber, and I just looked them up, but I mean, if they have gone before other, you know, it says they restore homes, and that's what they do, so I don't know if they've gone before other preservation commissions, but I don't think we're asking anything that any other commission wouldn't ask about this material. You know, it took a long time for commissions to be okay with windows that had SDL dividers and weren't just single glazed. So it's not to say that this is an impossibility. It's just I do not believe we have enough information to approve something that is, in my opinion, something like this on a landmark house when we really don't know what it's going to look like. So.
Understood. Wait a minute, I'm cruising in on the guarantee. Now, a 10-year warranty on labor.
If you'd be willing to approach the roofing contractor to build that mock-up, we could just continue this item to a future date and come back when that information's available. Is that, are you willing?
Me.
Okay.
In fairness, the gentleman on the end here said the pictures are, there's no pictures of the synthetic, and those are older brochures I just happen to have.
I think where we're struggling is that the roof of your house is so unique and so important to the character of the building that we want to get this right. So, and I think you do too.
That makes
so.
two of us. Okay. Well, let's go to the next step then. Let me, and I appreciate that. Let me see what I can do in terms of a mock-up, and if I find it satisfactory, then I'll bring it back to you folks. And if my spousal unit does not find it satisfactory, you may never see me again.
We want to.
I move to continue 2767 Euclid Park Place to the April, what's the date, Carlos?
Ninth.
April 9th meeting.
Second.
Ninth, yeah.
Second by Robert. All in favor of the continuance?
Aye.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get a mock-up.
What would happen is if you're not ready, you can let Carlos know, and we would just table it again till the next meeting. Did we vote?
No, yet, no.
I second. Should we say it again?
Robert was second.
Robert seconded. So we're ready to vote. All in favor of the continuation?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My apologies to all the people who I've made sit there. And if you want to know anything more about cedar roofing materials, glad to share it.
So next up, we have 1330 Lake
Lake
Street.
out of, just because we don't have time.
I was able to, sure, I was able to put him on the presentations.
It's a good thing I'm not on the sign commission. These guys are it's on Main Street. They use one of those signs that look like a realty sign.
It's by Scott, is sequential. Oh, you got it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chad Rogers. I'm the property owner at 1330 Lake, and I come with you asking for your approval on some exterior, mostly the western, but also some on the south, as well as the east side of the home. What we're seeking to do is, as a result of some finding stuff in the house, we ended up doing an entire full remodel. in this location. It is in the historic Ridge District. And so I'm going to talk to you about some of the changes we want to do to the various surfaces on the exterior, which of course that's why I'm here today. I'm also accompanied by my wonderful architect, Sylvia Wooler. So if you have any questions that I can't answer, I'll of course defer to her. And she's with Remake Architecture. So I think you guys have all had the opportunity to go through my initial desire with the various forms that were required to fill out. You'll see that I'm trying to take out some double hung windows, trying to add some double hung windows, which are true light divided double hung windows, and I'm doing that on both the western and the south side of the home, and I'm trying to add a skylight on the northern eastern portion of the roof, and I'm also trying to change the patio stairs from this kind of the northern portion of the patio to the center portion. So this is how the house stands now. It's right on the corner of Lake and Wesley. I'm sure you guys, or if you guys have been here for a while, most likely have seen it. It's kind of a prominent house. It's got a little bridge down there that kids love. So we want to change the portions of this house. If you see on the west side, that's if you're looking from the northwest corner down the western side. You can see that it currently has French doors and then some windows up top. If you continue, that's basically the middle portion of the south or the west side of the home. And then you get a better perspective of kind of the southern.
Would you mind standing closer to the microphone? They're not picking up the audio.
Yeah, no problem. You're going to find the southern portion of the western side, and then you're going to see the south portion of the home. And I give you a picture of an existing window. That's the window that we're basically going to copy in every place except two windows that we need to shorten. And the reason we need to shorten those two windows is because of how we've changed where the kitchen currently is. And so the way the island and the way the kitchen counters are going to work, we need to shorten those windows. So I think you guys have this in front of you. So this is the internal workings of what's going to be changed. So this kind of gives you a broad overview of what it was before. We had the stairs in the front, we had the stairs in the rear. We're getting rid of those now for the internal. And then we're also modifying the master bedroom on the top floor and then opening up the floor plan. So basically you'll be able to walk into the house and you'll be able to look all the way back to the back family room. You'll see the kitchen. It's going to be pretty nice in our opinion, and hopefully in your opinion as well once we're done here. We're also going to get rid of that one entry door. If you can see that entry door on the middle, on the main first floor, there's an entry door that's right in that cutout. We're getting rid of that as well, because currently we have two back entry doors that we think are redundant, for one, and two, for the stairs that we are actually trying to put in. We'd rather not have a door there because it opens up the floor plan a little bit more. So this is the rendering of actually how it's going to look when it's completed. The basement's going to be worked out with an office downstairs, bathroom down there as well, and then kind of an open floor plan. The stairs are being moved from the front to the middle where the dining room is. And then ultimately you've got kitchen and a family room. And the upstairs is basically staying the same, but as a result of moving those stairs southward, we're able to increase the square footage in the master bathroom and make that a little bit more usable and up to date. So this is really what you care about, but we needed to give you an internal perspective so you can understand what the external changes are. So currently you see the front of the house with all double hung window. They're true divided light and they're all wood. We are going to basically copy that. This is what it looks like now to what we're going to do here. So we're adding top two windows right above those French doors on the western side. One that creates a dimension inside. If you're inside the master and actually looking out, it looks unbalanced because you had one window prior and now we're making another window. So we're trying to combine not only the internal aesthetics, but also the external aesthetics. So now when we balance this out, when you go into that master bedroom, you see two windows that actually make sense. You don't have one window and a very long wall that has nothing there. And it matches the three windows in the front. Of course, if you have three windows in the front, two windows on the side, so it creates this aesthetic appeal from the interior. The exterior, it is a little offset from, I mean, ideally you'd be able to split those French doors, but unfortunately we'd run into the next room, so it's not feasible to do that. We are adding two windows, double hung, same size and dimension as the windows above on the western side, on either side of the fireplace. That creates symmetry on the other side of the house. If you see it here on the western side, I guess it was there too, on the western side you have those two windows as well. So now we're creating symmetry internally as well as externally. They are a little close. you'll have about an inch or a couple inches between the actual fireplace and those windows, enough for the trim around to match. But all the windows will be matching with true divided light, and they'll all be wood. We're also adding, if you go just south, we're getting rid of, one window on the upstairs, which is a very small window, and you can see it on, right there, which for the prior design, it made
Mr.
sense.
Ross, there is a pointer if you want to use it, that little star on the front.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. Okay, so I'm getting, let's see how stable I can be. Getting rid of this window. And that worked very well for the prior organizational structure of the internal upstairs. But as a result of us changing it, that window is very superfluous and actually kind of an eyesore. And so we want to get rid of that. So here's these two smaller windows here. They're going to be, of course, true divided light. They're just going to be smaller in length, same width. And the reason we have to do that, as I mentioned, is because of the internal workings and how we've set up the kitchen. We've moved the kitchen from the southern portion of the house to the middle portion, so it's, one, aesthetically more pleasing and more functional from how the house is constructed, because it is a very long house, not necessarily very wide, but very long. So those two windows are changing. The window you see right here is actually going to be moved. It's going to be moved from here to this portion right here, so it's going to match the southern portion of the home. And we're getting rid of that casement window. So now you have symmetry right there. And the reason we're doing that, one, is because of the two windows we're moving for the kitchen, but also because we want to create the symmetry in the back room and between the upper and lower floor on the west side and the rear of the home. Moving from the western side of the home, we're moved to the southern. Previously on the southern portion of the house, which is right here, you had no window. So you had, again, a function where you have something that's very unesthetically pleasing from the interior of the home as well as the exterior home. You'd expect, or at least I would expect naturally when I look at the rear of the home, to see 4 windows. But now I see 3, almost like an L. So we're looking to add, again, a true divided light, double hung wood window in that position. We seek to get rid of that door that I mentioned to you earlier that was right here. So we'll have an entry door that will remain on the rear of the house, but that door would go away. And it would be basically put over with the stucco and match the exterior of the home. The last addition, the second to last addition is currently this patio. The patio is very old, and since we are getting rid of that door in this area, we'd like to centralize this patio stair to the center of the patio. One, it creates it creates seating area both on the north side and the south side of the patio. And aesthetically, it makes more sense when you'd walk up to the patio to see something in the center. You get a nice balanced feature out of the patio. And as a result of some of the structural issues that we have to do with this home, we're also seeking to move this basement window just forward about 4 to 5 feet so we can basically have a masonry come in and strengthen that area, because that's where we have to put a very large beam to support the house. This is just some renderings of what we're seeking to do with the overall windows. Gives you an idea of how they're structured, and it gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. Julie, do you have a question?
I just said that's not a wood window.
That one is not, but we are utilizing a wood window.
Maybe it's not a good idea to have that.
Sorry, that's all in short notice when I asked them, that's what they gave me. And I want to give you an idea of what it looked like, but describe what it actually is. So it is a wood double hung window.
Whose window is it? What's the manufacturer?
It's Renewal by Anderson. So they are installing the windows and producing the windows.
Renewal is not wood. It's a synthetic material.
Okay, well, he mentioned to me that it was wood. He might have, maybe I missed that point, a mixture of synthetic and wood. I didn't understand that. Maybe he didn't articulate that to me. The way I understood it was a True Light double hug wood window.
Well, the style is double hung with divided lights.
Right.
But the material, the Renewal windows, is not wood.
I'm not sure it's true
It's-
divided light either, Carlos.
And if it's,
Okay.
Yeah, so if they're using double glazing, it would not be true divided light. But I guess the most important aspect of it is that if you're using the Renewal by Anderson,
Yep.
it's not wood window.
Okay, so key point, and I'll get more clarification on that. The way I understood it was a wood window, double hung, and true divided light. Elliot, you made a good point that ultimately you don't think it's true divided light.
No, I don't think they are. I don't think the renewal window is. It's really not competing with the ones that you're sort of describing.
I mean, it's not apples for apples?
No.
Okay, so that's something that maybe I can get further
In fact,
clarification
this
on?
drawing shows that it's a double glazing with the simulated divided
Yeah,
lights.
those are just it'll be simulated divided lights. They're just applied.
Okay, I can get
I think they
clarification.
have them between the lights, Carlos. I think it's only on the exterior.
Yeah, it could be even just applied.
That's what an SDL, like, yes, just on the exterior, and
Yeah.
then there's a,
Okay.
It's basically an applied grid.
Okay, when I spoke to Greg, who was the representative at Renewal, I asked him some of the key questions because I knew this would probably be questions that you guys would ask. Is it true divided light? He said, yeah, it's true divided, and I'm not a window expert, but they described it as true divided. So I will get more clarification on that aspect and make sure that I kind
Well,
of,
one thing we know, that the renewal is not wood.
okay.
And so.
Then
we
I would
need
have to go for another manufacturer to develop the window.
Correct.
Okay, I can do that. That's no problem. So that it's straight wood and not composite. This just gives you an idea of what you've already seen. And this gives you the window schedule of what we're looking to do. So we're looking to add 6 windows and moving 1 window to another location. Those are the main transitional changes that we're asking to do on the west side, south side, and then the eastern with moving the stairs and the patio and getting rid of that door. That basically is the scope of what we're looking to do on this particular property, if we can get approval from you guys for wood windows, double hung, and true divided light.
One thing that I have to do for every project is when someone applies for a permit, which you have, I need to make sure that the permit application is the same as what the commission has approved. In that schedule, it says by the architect is wood window, but you didn't know that renewal is not wood window?
I did not have this discussion with the client.
Okay, but your assumption is that it will be wood?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to make sure that you, in your specs, really cite the manufacturer and the series of windows so that we know it's all wood.
Sure, no problem, and I can get that done.
I don't think we can really vote on this unless we know what window it is. And we could talk about the composition and the changing of the window modulation, but I don't think, I mean, you have to understand, like, people come before us, they have the window, they have the, we labor over this, so it is difficult, when you don't actually know who's manufacturing the window. So should we talk about the exteriors and then what
Well, I can definitely switch to Pella, they make a wood window.
Yeah, well, Anderson makes there's other companies that make wood windows as well, so, but I'm just saying, I think we would be voting on, I don't know.
We'd have to put it on Carlos, I think, and have articulate what our understanding is to guide Carlos to review
Okay.
whatever brand and model he would come back with, I guess. And if it deviates from that, then it would be.
Well, I think that it depends on what you actually bring to the permit desk, because the drawings that you currently have, I have not had the opportunity to review for permit. So it's possible that those may indicate they're wood, but you're telling us the brand that is not wood.
Well, I understand that, but that's, in my opinion, I look at that, I know that's a distinctive aspect that we need to clarify, but it's an easy clarification for me, in my opinion, and as a council, to look at what we're trying to do and then come and make that change with you, which I think, Ken just mentioned, and show you exactly what, and why, as long as it fits with what you guys are expecting, then we could get approval. Otherwise, it gets denied, and I understand that fully. And I have no problem with getting the wood windows because I want it to match, as you can see, the other portions of the house. We've gone through fairly significant pains just developing and making sure that we can get the dimensions properly so it looks good from the western side while it still fits our needs as the homeowner from the inside. So I think, Ken brought up a great point, and the ability for me just to get the correct window and articulate that it's wood, and then provide you with the renderings, and your ability to sign off on that as long as it fits the council's needs, I think that's a successful solution. And I can go to Pella or whoever develops wood double hung true dividing light and not synthetic.
Well, what they've got, just so you know.
Yeah.
The material is Fibrex. It's kind of a wood fiber plastic, whatever material. So it's not wood. They probably are telling you it's wood because
Right.
somebody took shredded wood fiber and said, see, it's wood.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a kind of quasi-wood. They actually make, kind of the full grid, just so everybody knows, outside, inside with an aluminum spacer in the middle. So it's not bad if you can get that option.
Okay.
I was just curious about, given that I'm not sure the kind of window it is, whether they size them, specifically, whether it's custom sizes. And I'm going to ask Sylvia that, because it's her job now. What exactly happens in terms of these fitting within and the sort of exterior trim and all the rest? Because I haven't seen anything here that's showing us any of those details. We're usually, really concerned about what is the detailing of the window as it goes in, because you're replacing some existing and you're trying to replicate some of the others. So I just haven't seen any of that right now. I don't want to dump it all on Carlos.
Yeah, I mean,
Your job.
I think just, and this is help, I'm just going to say something that might be helpful. So the existing windows, I assume they might be single glazed with storms. Is that true, the existing windows? And is that true? Is that true? Are single glazed? Okay. So what I would say to you is that so this whole window thing is that's where you start, and then you understand that the muttons are, the divisions are a certain thickness, and so probably if you're going to try to match those, you may end up going to something that's called an SDL, which is and you do a wood window. So Pella makes them, Marvin makes them. You should look at the profile of the existing window, and then look at what what you may be purchasing, and they look like custom sizes. So I would push you in that direction. If you do a true divided light window, the muttons might be thicker. So just be attuned to what's existing and what you're trying to match as you move forward.
Right. When I had,
Okay.
it's just going to give you some basis point of where and I accept what you said, Julie, and I will take that wisdom. When I had the person come in, I brought them in my home and showed them where I would like to have the windows. They measured and do all that stuff, and they said, yep, we're going to match what we've got existing. They didn't say composite, so I'll definitely ask that question. Does it have wood, or does it have a mixture of wood? And so I'll take that to heart and try to find the exact matching windows. Currently, so to kind of give you more perspective, we weren't expecting to do this entire remodel. We are no longer living in our home. We're living in we're on an expedited timeline. So I'm asking if we can run stuff through Carlos to get the right window. Is that applicable and will it fit the needs? And if it doesn't, I understand, then I can try to come back next month. But that's what we're trying to successfully negotiate here.
It was saying was we also want to make sure that you're matching the trim conditions on the exterior, and we assume that, but it's something that maybe maybe your architect might want to draw a detail of a new window in an existing opening or something, that we have that. This is what we look at.
So a picture,
Since
yeah,
you're trying to
absolutely.
match.
We are going to match, but a picture would definitely give you an idea of.
I guess the other thing I'd like to see clarified a little in looking at the photos you provided of what exists and kind of zooming in closer, it does look like maybe just the front facade are original wood windows, and the side, in the photos, it looks like they might be vinyl replacement windows. I don't know what you've got there right now, but I think it maybe needs a little more thought of if you're just adding and replacing selected windows throughout the sides and the back, does that create a weird appearance to have a new, better, more historically compatible window, and then right next to it kind of a low-quality vinyl window?
Well, to be completely transparent, when we bought this house 2.5 years ago, so we moved here about 2.5 years ago, the prior owner did replace windows I think unbeknownst to the commission. So I do want to advise you that that has occurred. We're trying step by step to try to bring it back. That's why I'm trying to seek the wood and not composite and try to do it right. And that's why I'm here today. So I will kind of be completely transparent. If you went around that house today, you would find a variety of different windows, which probably were not approved by you guys. And I think, Sylvia can attest to that. So we're trying to bring it back to what it should have been with proper approval from you guys. But that's what we're seeking, and I understand that you want more clarity on the actual wood type and then what would the molding around the windows would be. We do plan to match the molding as it stands now.
Excuse me, for me, it would be helpful to have actual drawings and a photograph of the existing trim, dimensions, so next to each other, so you have the existing and proposed to scale, so we know it's a good match.
Okay.
And also that you have a proposal for all wood windows, whether they are the simulated divided light, that would be the double glazed, or the true divided light, which would be a single pane. And for that, you're most likely going to need a storm window as well. So the advantage of the double glazed insulated windows is because you don't need a storm window, but you can have the simulated divided light that looks like a true divided light from the outside, but it's not. So it's important that if you would like to move forward and if the commission concurs, I need to have that information before I can approve any permit and the certificate as well.
No doubt. I'll try to get it to you by Thursday if I can.
We've spent a lot of time talking about kind of the details and the materials. Did anyone have any comments or questions about the big picture kind of change of arrangement and placement of windows?
Well, we seem to be focusing on the windows, and I realize that somewhere in this process, because new openings are being created and windows are being moved around, that we're not really addressing the issue of the stucco and what's going to happen there. I mean, you've kind of treated it as if it's magically going to reproduce itself, match the finishes and all the rest, and I'm just curious as to what you see yourself as doing.
Elliot, I wish it would just magically do that because it's quite expensive
I've done
for
it
stucco.
twice. Trust me,
Yeah.
it isn't fun. And that's why I'm saying, that is a concern because right now we're just seeing windows, it's nice to show them on that screen as the window slides over 10 feet and then there's a big hole there that I'm ignoring the color. I'm just saying that even the finish and the texture is not a simple procedure, and that's something that we're not really even discussing here, and it ought to be a consideration on your part as well.
Yeah, it's a great point. So I've engaged 3 different contractors on that issue. So one was Heritage, another one was Chicago Stucco, another one is JAD Exteriors. So they've all price quoted me for the various work with the openings that I've requested and the change in the scope of work. So that includes the 6 windows, that includes the basement window of moving that forward, and it also includes the sealing off of that door that we look to get rid of. Okay. So they'll be matching existing. The color, we might seek to change the color because the greenhouse is not necessarily my favorite or my wife's favorite. So we would be looking to change the color that's in the
We don't have any purview over color, so don't worry about it.
Great, fantastic. But yes, we have sought that out because matching the existing stucco is going to be an interesting project because some of the stucco is old and some of it has been redone. For example, on the back south side, they're going to redo the whole top portion is what they've basically bid me for, so you don't have mixtures of colors and mixtures of textures. But every opening is articulated, and we've gone through that with these 3 contractors. Chicago Stucco is a little bit more expensive than the others, but the reputation is pretty good. So I'm still determining which one that I think I'd be most comfortable with, but that is a valid and important point, especially because the exterior of the home is what's seen and what the commission is concerned about, even though the interior is important as well. But yes, the stucco is a big issue and a very costly issue at that, and I have bids to handle that problem.
I just think the drawings have to be clearer and the windows have to be correct. I mean, we have people coming through who do, they just do this and they make these drawings, and I just don't think it's fair to just throw this onto Carlos. That's my opinion. I sort of think on your drawings, in terms of matching what's existing, what isn't, all of that should be on the documents. I mean, I know you have where new ones are, but it would be clearer if, the ones, I don't know, those there's some that aren't going to be changed, and so I just sort of feel like I don't feel comfortable just saying, Carlos, here, this is fine.
Julie,
I think to take that up before,
What?
because once Ken mentioned those windows that appear to be, replacements over the years, if you start zooming in on a couple of those elevations, you realize that they just fitted in a stock window with an awful lot of trim around them. And I'm not clear, if I looked at this elevation, I'd either assume that every single one of these windows I'm looking at is brand new. And I think that's the point that Julie's making. Some of these, and some of the ones that you said are older windows that your predecessor may have put in, are still here.
They are.
Okay, but I wouldn't know that. Right now, every one of those windows looks like, it's got exactly the same dimensions all the way around. Everything looks as if they're part of this new replacement window operation, and it's not.
Elliot, that's a great point. Surprisingly, when they did put in these new windows, they did form fit quite well. So I don't know if they got custom windows and just went with a different style, but if you went and you measured them, and Sylvia did, they are very, very similar.
But look on the exterior, there's an awful lot of extra fill on a couple of those. And if anybody zooms in on, I think, what is it, the west
It
elevation?
would be just a bedroom window because that previously used to be a porch. In the 1891 was when the house built. To 1950, they did a huge wraparound porch around the front. And it is, if you look in historical records, that's what was on this house and has been subsequently removed. And so my window, or this window, sorry, pointing, that does not help you. This window right here does have a significant amount of more trim because it used to be a door. They used to exit onto a full top and bottom porch. So it's a very accurate point, but only one window has that issue. So to say that all the windows have that issue, it might be a little bit of a stretch. But that window definitely has more because it was a prior door.
So I think what we would look for is you'd show us elevations, you show us which are historic existing windows, you'd show which are new, that you're not obligated to replace those, by the way. They were part of the house, somebody else did it, oops, I don't know, but, and then which ones you're replacing, and then you do a detail of the existing historic window next to the new window that you're providing. Okay, this is just, Carlos has that information, so, and then you talk about, matching stucco, matching trim, and those are the kinds of, those documents like that is what we would look at to approve, because I think it's in the documents, I just want to say, in how you're showing us, and you didn't know what window it was, and so I just feel like, in my opinion, you should come back with something that is actually documented correctly as drawings so we can vote on it. That's how I would vote.
Are we ready to entertain a motion of some size and description?
I sense that there's a sense of wanting to continue this. And I'm just not sure before I offer to make a motion. To not make,
April 9th is the meeting.
yeah, I make a motion that we continue 1330 Lake Street for, I won't go through all of it, the replacement, any number of windows across the elevation and making other modifications to the exterior facade, and continue that to the meeting of April 9th, 2019.
Second.
Robert? All in favor of continuing this to April 9th?
Unanimous?
See you April 9th. All right, thank you.
Next, we have 321 Lake Street.
More papers. Just plans. Thanks. Yeah, that's the new thing, yeah. That's new. Whole forests are being torn down because don't.
Hello, my name is Mike Hauser. I'm the architect for the Rokas, who are behind me, Corinne and Mason. They live at 321 Lake Street. We're here tonight for a variety, a three-headed proposal here. This is, you've seen us before a couple years ago. This is fine-tuning of some of the program of the house, the way the house functions that the homeowners have discovered over the years that they're looking to make better. Like I said, there's three pieces to this. One is going to be this sleeping porch. We're calling it a sleeping porch. It is actually a bedroom. The windows are real. It's not screened so the way the drawings are laid out, there's existing and then proposed below. Another feature that we're presenting tonight is the back porch, which is visible from the north side here, and let's see, this is the west side here, and there it is, a little bit poking out on the east side. The third feature is this entry area. This is the existing, you can see there's a existing door, concrete stairs, steel railing, and this bay. There's a garden window here, blank facade here that's all brick. This is all being proposed to be reworked into this scheme down here. So what I'm going to do is start with the sleeping porch. I think that's where this makes sense to present. Let's see. So what we have here is a porch that, in plan, comes up short of the building of the first floor on the east side by about 18 inches. On the west side by 18 inches, and on the north side by about 6 inches. It's creating a lot of waterproofing issues, and there are pictures that detail that right here. This area here is it's an impossible little roof to make sound, and we're seeing waterproofing problems and evidence of water penetration even now. And this is after a kitchen remodel that's about 2 years ago. The proposal for the sleeping porch, which is of unknown age, I should say, it doesn't feel original to the house, nor does this back area feel original to the house. When we had it open during the kitchen remodel, there was a lot of different framing going on, and that's no doubt contributing to the waterproofing issues. But the proposal would be to take this volume and respectfully redesign it so that it covers the entire first floor. So this wall here is stretching out to that wall, and then the whole facade is moving forward 6 inches in order to make that waterproofing issue stable. The scheme is also, I'll go back to the elevations. So you can see the scheme right now is a colonnade with 3 sets of double windows. That's on the north elevation. We are stretching it out, keeping the colonnade, but we're introducing that single on the left-hand side, and that's going to help the interior layout of this hallway, which then leads into the bedroom as well. These would all be new windows, and really they're in really bad shape also. So the proposal to replace these windows, there's not a heck of a lot left to that structure once those are gone. So with that, that's what leads us to the next proposal, which is for the screened-in porch. The order that's created upstairs in this sleeping porch has been drawn down into the screened-in porch. So this is a wood-wrapped colonnade with screened panels. They have the lower spandrel panel and then the higher transom, which is similar to what we have in the original sleeping porch area, where they have the panel in the bottom and the panel on the top. So there's an attempt here to order it in a similar way. The base is brick, which would be brick to match the rest of the house, and it's going to be a limestone or bluestone patio floor finish inside the screened-in porch. But let's see. This is the floor plan. You can see what's there now. There's really no work there is no work happening to the interior here. It is all exterior, which is now just a step down to a patio. We're just putting the roof on it, which would make this a screened-in porch. There's a masonry chimney also. This is that western facade. So you have two bays, and then the fireplace would be in between here. The roof is proposed as a copper standing seam. I apologize, I'm going back and forth, but we're using the bottom panel of those windows above as a way to, give the roof some slope and to move water away. There's a set of doors down here that work with a stair that's all brick and limestone also, or bluestone. We're deciding between the two. So that's part two of this proposal. We think, because the house, when you look at these, especially this shot here, this is very different construction, obviously. It's a very complementary construction to the heavy brick and to the order of the windows, et cetera. This is almost all windows, and it's treated very differently. We thought it would be a nice way to extrude that into the screened-in porch, and keep that order and keep that language going throughout, around the house for basically, these saddlebags of program that don't relate, that aren't the existing bulk structure. I want to mention also that there's a datum that goes around the bottom. It's a soldier course, and we're picking that up over here at the screened-in porch with that transition to materials. So there would be this effort to, create that plinth that the rest of it sits on. So now I get to this area. We're pulling in similar columns to this, and the similar relationship with the brick and the bluestone. But here we have a different, and I think I wrote it up in the proposal, but this house sits in an area where, and in such a way that people think this is the front door. The front door is, in fact, on the other side of this house. They're getting solicitors constantly at this door. And the confusion is, brings people up to a door which is very private to the house. It brings you into the internal, you have a very good view of the interior of the house, and there's an effort here to, let's switch that relationship. Let's help the homeowner with, I'll get to the plan here. As people, I'm talking about the first floor here, as they come up here, this is a driveway here. The stairs are, inviting to visitors as the front door. People don't make it over to the front door very often. So what we're doing with this proposal is shifting the stairway to the north so that it is invisible from the street, and it removes that confusion, but also allows for, the kids and the parents who are working back here or parking the car in the garage and on the driveway to then come up and, have a little covered entry, which right now there is none. But we can't do that if we keep the bay. So the combination of the driveway along here, this concrete stair facing this direction, and the bay, which eliminates the possibility of that stair going to the north instead, has us where we are with this solution. These model shots are, this is existing, this is what we have. This is probably, I should have started with this, right? So this is the sleeping porch, and there is nothing back here now. This is a view as you walk up to the house. This is what we're proposing in the form of a covered entry. A close-up of how that panel would work and how some of the column detailing would be. The roof would be standing seam copper. These would be glass windows that would provide a little coverage for those entering the building, but not give the cue of the stairs. Here are the stairs. This is a little bit further back. Some of the things that we're doing with the windows to replace the garden window that I think everyone would be happy to see go, and the bay. This is a window that would be the same basic proportion as the top sash of the existing wood windows in the front. It would be a wood window, Marvin Ultimate double hung. These three would be awnings. This is a view of that entire side. Screen and porch here, sleeping porch, and that side entry. This is as we move to the back. And then the rear view. And then this is from the east neighbor's yard, showing what that porch would look like from that direction. I have to say, I have a long-awaited doctor's appointment tonight at 9:30, and I might have to watch the video for your comments. So I really appreciate everybody, all your input. I'm going to stay as long as I can, but then the homeowners would be here to, I've prepped them very well. Thank you very much.
Any specific clarifications quickly?
A quick question, can you make that bay project out any further? Or are you
We
limited?
can't because of the driveway. We are right at the limit there for getting a
You
car
really
past.
don't have a lot of
Yeah.
space to get in that vestibule.
Exactly.
Okay, I was just curious why.
It's a very nice set of drawings and design.
Related to this application?
Want me to make a motion?
I think it's pretty clear, everything that's being proposed.
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Ready for a motion?
Sure.
I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness to 321 Lake Street for the modifications to the side entry, including the covered vestibule addition and the reconstruction and modifications to the second floor sleeping porch and the addition of a screen-in porch at the first floor. Applicable standards include alteration 1 through 6, 9 and 10, construction 1 through 8, and 10 through 15. And then do you need a separate motion for demolition?
Yes.
Okay.
Ye-
You want me to include that?
Yes.
And demolition 1 through 6.
Second?
Second by Robert. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Any opposed?
Getting all the
Thank you.
sleepings in.
Next, we have 1914 Sheridan Road.
Good evening. I'm Robert Carlton. I'm the project manager with Northwestern University. And
Can pass the other one. That way.
this is Ronald Mitchell from Moody Nolan, the project architect. We're here regarding 1914 Sheridan Road, one of the many houses along Sheridan Road that the university has. This is actually designated as the Black House. It's a community drop-in center that came out of that resulted from the 1968 campus sit-in and was eventually, there was in the mid-70s, well, in the late, in 68, part of that process. The provost of the university dedicated a facility for
This is another set.
black community for their use, and in the early 70s, this particular property in 1914 Sheridan was designated. So it has a long storied history with the university and student population. and it's a 1920s era Queen Anne. And we are at the point that we are proposing a renovation of the building, essentially a total gut and remodel. Of particular note, there's a very lovely open steel stair that has been attached to the west non-street side of the building that we would very much like to make go away. And as part of the work that we're doing, what we would replace that with is an enclosed stair with a center commercial four-stop elevator, an adjacent porch. This is on the west side of the building, which backs up to the parking lot for Foster Walker Residential Hall, which is to the northwest. The buildings to the houses to the north and to the south of this location are all university houses that are used for administrative functions. And then further west of that parking lot is the University Health Center. With that, I am going to turn it over to Ronald, who can actually go through the details.
Thank you, Robert, and good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to keep this moving and get you out of here as quickly as possible. So as Robert mentioned previously, as I'm sure you all are aware, a number of the structures along Sheridan Row have been, adaptively, repurposed by the university for, any number of functions, mostly administrative. And in the case of the Black House, the home is being used ostensibly as a student union of sorts, a bit of a gathering space. And so really this project endeavors to address kind of three basic needs at a macro level. One, obviously it was not historically a student union, and so we're trying to improve upon the existing condition just from an access standpoint, circulation standpoint, improved building thermal and envelope performance. So that's one. Two, basically, as Robert mentioned, there's this lovely steel platform stair that was, built at some point in the 90s, I believe, in part in an effort to try to facilitate some of these very issues that I'm speaking to, right now. But, obviously, that steel stair, as you'll see in subsequent images, wasn't true to period, or really, complementary to the existing architecture. And so we want to, in this, as part of this project, to try to, essentially rectify, what was, an error in judgment some number of years ago and try to improve, upon, that condition. And then lastly, just from a student emotion, standpoint, as Robert mentioned, this place is of significant importance to, students on campus, particularly students of color. And so really, one of the key drivers is to try to give them an improved environment, one, that is both conducive to, socialization in an academic environment, but also, can facilitate, things such as, quiet study, contemplation, in addition to socialization. So with all of that as background, let me start to, run through the deck as quickly as possible and get you out of here. So, the application, you all have reviewed, I'm sure. Just site orientation, again, Sheridan Road, here. This is immediately to the south of the existing structure. And particularly of note here, and you'll see it in subsequent images, this is a throughway that's very heavily traveled by, the campus community. And so what you're going to see in subsequent images is an attempt to really celebrate that, in a way, in terms of how we treat the landscape. And then as you move to the back, as Robert mentioned, there's a parking lot for the Student Health Center, and then you move on to, points north and west, on the campus. All righty, site demolition plan, again, that's that throughway that I was speaking of. And so to facilitate a more gracious, promenade, we're doing some selective demo work on landscape as well as curbs and gutters and asphalt, back in the parking lot area. All righty, so now we move to the new proposed site plan. And so basically, we pick up that throughway or that promenade with a combination of paved surfacing. Again, it's a little bit more gracious curbing, in terms of how that plaza of sorts meets the parking lot edge, but also introducing some pavers, here, and gently starting to turn the corner as you walk around the west end of the house. What you'll also note, and I think Robert touched on it, is essentially we're adding an elevator and an exit stair, enclosed, and then we're also providing as a bonus space an outdoor porch that's partially covered, and you'll see that depicted more in subsequent images. Alrighty, so basically demolition plan, essentially everything that's at the back of the house is more or less being demolished, including that, ungracious steel, stair, and a couple of shed entrances that were also, appendages that were added on at some point, during, the transition in use. And then there's also some ad hoc interior demolition, but again, you're going to focus for the purposes of this presentation on the exterior. Alrighty, first floor, again, you see the demolition that's happening. That's our stair, aforementioned, also the shed, entrance shed, aforementioned, and then also there was an existing basement, concrete stair, that, kind of, leaves the basement and comes up the grade. All of that is being removed and replaced with the work that we're proposing. And then second floor demo, again, continuing on up. Third floor demo, again, trying to get to the good stuff for you. Alrighty, and then roof demolition. So again, you can see highlighted in red just for clarity, what's being removed. All right, so now we get into the new work. So floor plan perspective, as Robert mentioned, the elevator that we're adding serves all 4 levels of the house. And again, this is just to facilitate movement of not only people from an accessibility standpoint, but also goods and, equipment and the like. And then the stair really serves as an exit, stair for all practical purposes. And then what you're seeing here is the foundation and footing system for the porch above. Alrighty, so first floor, now we start to get into the essence of what's happening. Again, ad hoc, renovations in the house, all proceeding towards, that back porch addition, which I mentioned, again, is partially covered. You can see the dashed line here. I don't know why I keep losing the green. Every time I go past a certain point, the laser disappears for some reason. But at any rate, you can see the stair and elevator, continue up. One feature of the porch is that it does feature some platform seating. Again, this is to facilitate, this as an outdoor, gathering space during, non-inclement, or, comfortable weather. Second floor, stair and elevator, go up. There is a small balcony section on top of that, covered porch that I mentioned previously. And then as you get up to the third floor, you just see the outline of the balcony below. And again, the stair and the elevator go, all the way up to the top level. And then at roof level, and you'll see this much better depicted in renderings, basically we're trying to gently and in a very complementary way touch and attach ourselves to the existing house. And again, a plan really doesn't do a good job of depicting that. I think these elevations will do a much better job of showing intent. So what you have here is on top, basically you've got proposed and existing elevations just so you can see front of house and back of house. So existing, number one, and essentially it should be said that other than window work, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that towards the back end of the presentation of what we mean by that, there's really no work being proposed on the house. So the front of the house is the front of the house and will remain the front of the house. And then proposed again, so they look really exactly the same for all intents and purposes. But then when you get to the rear, so you can see that ungracious steel platform stair that we're referring to. So the before condition, and then after over here, and again, I don't know why I keep losing the laser, but you can see what our intent is. This left half, and let me see, I'm going to try to stay with the mic, point from this side. Okay, that ain't working either. think you guys can follow. The left half of this house is the extension. And again, as you can see, just from a roof and gabling perspective, also, basically, complementary details that extend from the existing house, the fish scaling, shingles, the band of, shingles at mid-rise, even to, the brackets, that basically abut the roof lines as well, all in keeping with the period, of the existing home. And then you can see the porch. There we go. It's staying with us. You can see the partially covered porch here with the balcony above. All righty, and then you start to get that existing and proposed south. Really, again, other than the west end of the house, we're really not proposing any work other than window, work. And then, like I said, I'll come back and explain that in more detail later. But you can see the old steel stair here versus how the addition, extends out, but yet, the roof lines and the, geometry proportions are all maintained. Same thing from the north. Again, basically other than the window work, no other work being proposed. So you can see before here and after below. One thing to also note, back up one, you can see this shed dormer. The purpose of that shed dormer is actually to accommodate elevator, clearance above. All righty, and then obviously, basically east and west, again, you kind of get, the essence of what we're trying to accomplish architecturally. These are just standalone elevations that obviously I've already, kind of powered through, but just in a slightly larger scale for you to focus in on. Okay, alrighty, so now we get to some of the portraits. So you can get a real clear depiction of what's out there. So you can see the steel stair here. You can see the existing front of the house along Sheridan Road. And then here to the north, there's an existing accessibility ramp, which we're not touching. Again, that's going to stay as is. Alrighty, and then, front porch, again, will stay as is. And then various views, as you swing from, down Sheridan Road, kind of in this view looking slightly southwest to this view up top looking slightly northwest. All righty, so now we get to some of our rendered views, and there's often the expression that the picture's worth 1,000 words, where I'm going to give myself a 50-word demerit on this one, because we actually had a Photoshop fail of sorts within the attempt to basically show and Photoshop in the addition. There was some artifact from our point cloud scan that basically the existing steel stair still kind of shows up. So my apologies for that, but rest assured that won't be there. As you saw in the elevational drawings, basically the addition again, starts to mimic, some of the same detail that carries forth from the existing house. Even the datum, the stone datum, that serves as a base, as a podium for the house, is continued on, once you start to get into the rear porch portion of this. All right, and then here you just see, and these were actually images from our point cloud scan, that we took of the existing house. So you can see pedestrian view northwest and southwest along Sheridan Road. All righty, now you start to come from the back. This is that parking lot that I mentioned previously, adjacent to the Student Health Center. Again, looking back towards the Black House, and you can see some of the neighboring context surrounding it. All righty, and then here as a composite, again, from a photoshopping perspective, you can see, generally speaking, how, we plan to gently and graciously touch, the existing house. Now, and then from looking back towards the southeast, this is that promenade that's heavily, walked and heavily traveled that I mentioned previously. Alrighty, now for windows. So again, I mentioned, in terms of the existing, front and north and south elevations, the intent is basically to do no harm. So the work, what exists will be there. That being said, I mentioned earlier that there's a desire to improve thermal performance on the house. And so the existing structure has single pane, windows. And so our preference would be to restore. And so we're going to seek to do that, but, the project doesn't have finite, dollars, and so what we're showing in this package are a couple of different strategies. One that basically looks to restore, and then a different one that looks to replace if, the university ends up from a, budgetary perspective needing to make some adjustments in costs. But what you see here first depicted is the existing condition, both in, elevation and in detail. So, typical double hung, windows, with sashes frames, again, as I mentioned, single pane glazing. If we pursue a replacement, we would look to, Marvin windows, and we would look to go to, 1-inch insulated glass. We could more or less match the existing condition, probably with a couple of very, minute exceptions. If you were to look at the existing windows, for instance, and look at the existing sash, center sash, is, again, I can't seem to hold a laser where I want it, but there's some architectural flutation that's seen that, Marvin would not be able to replicate in a replacement window. But other than that, all of the other trim work and detail would, basically carry forth. So to the naked eye, there's little to no, difference if a replacement were to be pursued. However, if we end up are able to afford restoration, what we would look to do is simply remill the windows, add a 1/2 inch. We think we can increase from 1/4 inch glaze and a 1/2 inch argon-filled glass, just to get some, thermal, performance and capacity out of it. So then, kind of concluding shots, just looking at some of the neighboring context along Sheridan Road to the north and to the south. So I'm going to pause there and hand the floor to the committee.
Thank you. Any questions or clarifications needed?
I just have a quick question. The
Yes,
building, the 1918 building, that's obviously part of the university, correct? The one that extends,
To the north, okay.
so the addition, when it comes out, it projects into the rear lot. That's your building that's to the north of it that would sort of get blocked.
Yes, the north side.
And you're referring to this one right here?
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
Since that's mostly impacted by the addition.
Right. So the stairwell and elevator addition that's being added to this project, 1914 Sheridan, it actually aligns with, it's an extrusion out. So the north wall of 1914 Sheridan does not extend any further than the curly. Material, wood siding, the scalloping is all the same. In part because we're bounded by the accessibility ramp that you see just behind the transformer there. So that really sets the boundary for, any.
I'm going back.
There is no expansion to the north.
Okay.
It's only to the west.
I missed that image. I was going back so you guys could actually see. I think I blew past it too quickly. But yeah, you can see here. So we hold that northern edge, flush.
And do you have an idea of where the 1918 building stops on its rear facade? It looked like it projected a little bit to the west.
In plane, and I want to make sure I'm understanding your question, in plane relative to how far westward? Yeah, Robert, what are you trying to do?
The edge of the building is shown up there in
The edge of 1918?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's up further. I see what you're saying. Okay, so it is quite a distance from this building. Okay.
So that's the edge of 1918.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is the building to the south is the hash part down there. And those are
Any other questions?
I guess I just wanted to make a comment. I totally appreciate all of the matching of the detailing. I think the massing on the back, the way you brought the gable as if, it was cut off is very awkward. Just want to say. It looks really great in elevation because you don't know that it's another plane coming forward.
Yeah, and
So,
let's see, let's go to the photos. Well, you can start to see here, this was actually the original building, has exactly that gable existing, and this is original to the building, with a little flat section right in between there. So we're,
It's done frequently, and I understand that it's when you break it forward, it's like a strain. So that's all.
yeah, and I completely, we completely acknowledge that it's an awkward situation, but we're doing our best to maintain the character of the building and just extrude it out and maintain consistency. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, quick while you're here.
Anything else anyone wants to comment on? Okay, are we ready for a motion? Elliot, would you care to make a motion? Could you turn your microphone on? I'm sure they're not hearing you.
I thought it was. I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for 1914 Sheridan Road for the removal of the existing fire stair rear entrance and basement cellar entrance at the rear of the house to enable a new two-story addition with an egress stair and an elevator, adding a porch, second-floor balcony to the back of the house, as well as there would be 3 condensing units on the north side yard. These are applicable standards for construction 1 through 8 and 10 through 15, and for demolition standards 1 through 6.
A second?
Robert, quick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, I
And lastly, thanks for your patience. We have 1333 Asbury Avenue.
And here, I need to just sign in really quickly.
And now that you've seen what he's doing around the corner.
Nate? Are you Nate?
Yes.
Hi. I put him on the slides. Yeah. Yeah, but it's good to have him. That's me. What's going on? Hot? Too hot?
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, thanks, everybody. My name is Nate Lilasius. I'm here from Northworks Architects to tell you guys about a project at 1333 Asbury. Our clients, Steve and Megan Jelensky, are here as well. So this is a new project in the Asbury Ridge subdivision, which you guys heard a little bit about today. Here's the application. Just going to jump right to the drawings. So this is part of the Asbury Ridge subdivision, but you'll notice from the site plan that the lot is very similar to a typical Evanston lot. This is just north of the Dryden Mansion, faces Asbury Street. We have a 50-foot frontage on Asbury, and it's a 150-foot deep lot. You can see the house is composed of a main wing with a side wing, with the main entrance in the front. Let me see if I can get this. There's the main entrance and walkway from Asbury. Here's the adjacent house at 1331 Asbury, and then the private shared alley in the back of the house. Here's the basement. This will be an unfinished basement. We will have a stair built down, but an unfinished basement space with some mechanical area. The first floor, this is the main entryway. You'll walk in, you'll have the main stair here to the left. The living room will be in this side wing, the cross gable. Moving to the back, you'll have a kitchen and family space. Continuing to the back, a little mudroom, bathroom, small office, and access to the garage. Off of the living room and kitchen, you'll have a little patio that leads down to a dining patio. On the second floor, above the living room, you'll have the master suite. That's down here with the master bathroom, master closet. Long corridor along the north side of the building with 2 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms, and then a playroom over the garage. And then the attic is going to be an unfinished attic space, but the master bedroom will have a lofted ceiling in that lower cross swing. Starting with the north elevation, this faces the house to the north, obviously. There's a fairly large yard between this house and the adjacent property. You'll see we have a higher ridge on the front of the house and then a lower ridge over the garage in the back. We have some very tall and narrow windows that relate to the other windows in the neighborhood on the historic buildings. And we really minimize the window type. So here, these are all the same modulars, and then we have some that are double of that module. The front of the house, we have a main, it'll be a stained wood door and a recessed entryway with a steel canopy. You'll have a large composite window system at the front of the house that'll describe where the main stair is. Street-facing main gable, and then a cross gable. This material in this kind of hatch is a stucco material. So this will be a very similar finish to the house next door to the south at 1331, which is a modern stucco structure. But actually the house to the north is also a stucco-clad building. And then there's a couple stucco houses actually across the street as well. This part of the house that has a darker gray hatch, we're proposing a Boral True Exterior product, which is a poly ash material that is treated a lot like wood. It's cuttable in the field. It takes paint very well. It comes in lots of traditional shapes and profiles. We're proposing a stucco chimney with a painted steel cap. The Boral would also be used for all the eave fascia boards, window heads, and then panels around the recessed front door. The south elevation, here's the end wall of the cross wing. So this end wall would be stucco. We have a large bay in the center of the volume of the house, and that would be clad in the painted Boral material. We have a dormer up in the attic that aligns with this bay, and then another dormer in the back of the house in the playroom. And you can see in this facade again, we have a very limited number of window types grouped in pairs. Here's a couple triplets, but reduced types. And then here's the back of the house. You can see that lower gable over the garage and the playroom, the higher gable at the main volume of the house, and then the cross swing. Here are some renderings of the house. This shows the house to the north, and then you can see the house to the south. And here's our house looking this is looking northish up Asbury, and then the other view is looking more southerly. And then here's a rendering with a little more context, sort of showing how it would look on the streetscape. Here's some of the context images. The current lot is this vacant lot right here. You can see the neighbor's stucco house here. Here's the fence of the neighbor's house. This is the neighbor to the north. It's a traditional home with a stucco finish. And here's looking up Asbury at that streetscape with the neighbor's house. Here's kind of the spot where we're proposing this building. And then looking down, here's where Dryden Place comes in off of Asbury. This is the George Mayer Carriage House, and then this is one of the new buildings from the Asbury Ridge Division. These are the houses across the street. They go from south to north. So this is the northernmost house across the street, and this is the southernmost. But you'll see there's some stucco. Here's a stucco house as well, and this house actually has a stucco finish. Here's our plans again. I'm just going to jump to the, so the two things we're asking for today, we're asking for a certificate of appropriateness, obviously as a new house in a historic district, in the Ridge Historic District. We're also asking for a minor variance for impervious surfaces. As part of the Asbury Ridge subdivision, the alleys are counted towards the impervious lot coverage because they're private alleys, they're not owned by the city. So I'm just going to jump back to our site plan real fast. And so this alley is eating up a lot of our impervious surface area. We did try to be very thoughtful with the impervious surfaces we're adding to the property, and we didn't try to go overboard. So you'll see in the agenda, we're asking, I think it's about a 1% variance. And that would let us get a front walkway and a porch, the back walkway, and then a dining terrace. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any public comment on this? You're the homeowner, so you're.
They love it.
Any comments from the commissioners?
I had a question about that front window.
Sure. Should I jump back to
The multi-story window.
Yep.
So is the stair right up behind that?
Yes, it is. So the stair. So I'm going to go to the plan so I can.
There it is.
So the stair comes up here, continuing up this flight, and then continues up further. So the stair will cross part of that window if that's what you're getting at.
It's not this kind of unbroken light of glass in a two-story space. Okay. I mean, that's how it reads on the elevation.
Yeah, it'll be, this space will be effectively 2 stories.
Wanted to compliment you because frequently new houses will not try to address their neighbors in any particularly friendly way. And I think that the juxtaposition between and the choices you made using stucco with the other house, which also is a really very interesting house, I think that's a transformation of more traditional elements, is a really nice choice. So I commend you on that.
Thanks. We definitely try to be sensitive to the massing of the other houses. One thing I didn't touch upon, but most of the houses have a main front-facing gable and then secondary volumes. So when we were massing the house, we were looking at those relationships.
Ma'am, did you have anything to add? And if you could be sure to sign in and state your name.
My name is Myra Janis, and I live at 1222 Greenwood. And our house faces on Greenwood. It's not shown in any of the things, even though we abut this property. There are two houses that abut it on the Greenwood side. And one of my concerns is right now it's made a big difference with the other house that's been built because it's very high and it's kind of a solid wall of white. And I'm glad to see that you haven't done that because it will be 6 inches or 6 feet away from our property and affect the light and stuff in our property. But I like the design, look of the design, but I just wanted to comment that there's another property there to consider too.
Thank you.
Did you have a chance to sign up?
Oops. Pardon? 1222 Greenwood.
Her house is kind of back.
Yeah, it's not shown. But we have big windows that face south, so upstairs and downstairs, so it.
Any other thoughts or questions or things to clarify? So we have both we'll need two motions, one for the certificate of appropriateness and then separately the zoning, a recommendation regarding the zoning variance.
Oh, come on.
Jamie, would you care to make a motion?
Okay, I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1333 Asbury Avenue for the construction of a single-family home with attached two-car garage at the rear of the vacant lot. Do I do this and then do another one for the, okay, so the applicable standards, construction 1 through 11, 13, 14, and 16.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Elliot? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now the zoning variance?
Is it also a certificate of appropriateness, or how do we, I move that we accept?
Recommendation.
Recommendation? Okay. I move that we make a positive recommendation on the proposed zoning variation to allow for an impervious surface area ratio of 46.18% as opposed to 45%.
A second? Julie? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. These drawings are so preliminary. The one that was real, the one where the architect was sitting here and the guy was doing. She wasn't presenting anything, right? She did the drawings. He was doing the whole thing. I don't know. I'm gonna cross the street tomorrow or Thursday and ask her. Because it's very strange. It's like she wasn't.
Okay, so next we have approval of the minutes from February 12th, and I hope everyone saw that Carlos made some edits and sent out a new version later in the day.
So I received 3 comments. Well, I should say I received comments from 3 people. They were very minor comments, which I sent out earlier today for your consideration. So I would just ask that make a motion to approve if you feel it deserves approval.
Did anyone else beyond the three that already replied? Did anybody else have
No,
anything?
on that one on the second floor, on the second page, you left out "it,"
Okay.
because it says because, whatever it says there, it's not.
So just let me, is it on the what page, second page?
Second page, it says because is the one time it occurs. It's because it is. the one
Okay.
time.
I'll add that too.
With that correction, can we have a motion? Elliot, would you like to make a motion?
Oh, come on, man. You're making the grammar. I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of, God, and he had me shut it off. I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of February 12th, 2019, or the commission meeting, including all of the changes that have been made.
I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Robert and Susie are abstaining
They weren't there.
because they weren't there. And then staff reports.
Okay, so I would like to remind you again to the people who, or the commissioners, I should say, did not respond to the registration for the April 26 camp workshop. Please do so. I think it would be a good event to attend, and I think that it would be very helpful to the commissioners to take notes and compare how we are doing business here. And once I know the number, I need to also make this public so that we have other communities perhaps sending representatives. We have space for 30 attendants, so we hope that it will be a full house. It's Friday, April 26th.
And registration is just we tell you we're coming.
Yes,
and
you just
can
let
go
me
in.
know, and it will be registered.
Can you register on the 25th?
It's the whole
No,
day on the
I need to know, I had to send actually a whole list of registration, I believe 10 business days prior to the event to the camp people, so I will be sending out. Yeah, please send me an email. And then we will be also sending out the applications for the 2019 Preservation Design Awards, and we are also working with our colleague that is in charge of sustainability. We're adding another category so that we can be more inclusive for projects that perhaps are helping the environment with innovative design, solar energy or wind power energy, and we have other types of technology that perhaps Evanston could benefit from, and as well as some of the challenges we have with preservation districts where perhaps someone would like to add some solar panels and things like that. I think that would be good to add that additional category for the awards, and it also gives more opportunity for people to submit. So if you have any project that you have in your mind that should be nominated, let me know, because we need to start putting together a list, and also I need to work with our staff. Last year we had a very successful presentation and reception for the award recipients, which was videotaped, and then we submitted that and presented to the City Council, and I think that helped us too, because we were able to enjoy the projects, enjoy the applicants or the homeowners, architects. We also had the mayor sending a message, and I don't know, depending on when we do this, he may be available to present in person the awards. So I hope that this is also another event that we can promote and benefit from. Then I sent an email earlier today regarding the April 9th meeting where we're going to distribute some information, or actually it's a document that is being prepared by the law department regarding 917 Edgemead Court. If you look at the ordinance, and I quoted the ordinance, we are supposed to provide findings on every decision the commission does. And from my understanding is that because the application and the COA approval have been challenged in court, the city is preparing documents to present to the court, and one of them is the findings of the commission. So we will ask you to consider not to make a different finding, it's just to, we have the oral documentation, we have the minutes, but now they want actually see a document that will say findings, which we did similar for the Clark Mansion. We did have findings of fact. So that's what we're supposed to bring to your attention on the April 9th meeting, and that's why it's important that we have a quorum for that meeting. If we cannot gather a quorum, we will have to have a special meeting before that date. So if you hadn't had a chance to reply to that email, I'd like to encourage you to do that as soon as possible.
Is that going to be the same process we had to do for the Harley Clark report?
Well, the one of the issues that we are, well, some of the issues that are under discussion are basically whether or not the ordinance should be amended so that it would not require the commission to do this for every single decision. And since the ordinance states that now, we have to do it. So in fact, I talked to the law department earlier today, and they said, well, from now on, you have to do that. So what I will do is prepare, for next meeting, the findings of fact for all the projects that we reviewed today. So that we have what we have to do, and we'll try to find a way that would be more straightforward. I think the review sheets perhaps could be a good start. You know, we have this where we can check whether or not it applies, whether it's met, it has been met, and whether or not.
Didn't we just have a conversation recently about the meeting minutes and how to maybe parse those down? So now you're stating.
I cannot agree more, but apparently this is
Would you
what.
like to be the secretary?
I think.
Just remember the Harley Clark report going on for
We're
an
not.
extensive
That's
time.
not the intent to do that.
But I'm just saying the discussion in the meeting, since we have to do things
Well,
publicly.
the way I'm thinking is that we're going to have the minutes,
Okay.
and we're going to have the findings, which will be kind of a very abbreviated version of the minutes where basically we need to explain. And I think I'm going to ask you from now on to state a couple of reasons why the standards have been met. Because when you just list, 1 through 10 apply, it doesn't necessarily indicate exactly why those standards, you can cite the materials are sympathetic to the neighboring structures in the district, the roof line matches the other houses, whatever that might be pertinent to the motion, so that it gives something to the commission to uphold their decisions if they're a challenge. And that's the problem, is that the commission or the city, not the commission, has been challenged in court on that decision.
Why are they challenging the decision?
I don't have any
So we don't know.
information.
Is this going to be something, too, that falls more on the people that were at that meeting, I'm assuming, since there were quite a few people that were actually absent on that meeting?
Well, we have to have a quorum, and then if someone has to abstain, they have to do
That will make the quorum and it should be maybe a large quorum.
I'm trying to gather as many people as
Understood.
possible.
Well, yeah.
And Julie, you responded that you cannot attend, but it's not the 16th, it's the 9th, which is a regular meeting. It's our regular meeting. Okay.
But the question, I think her question is legitimate. You weren't there?
No, I was. I was one of the main.
Okay, but I wasn't, And so the question is, I can abstain on approving the minutes, which people did today.
Yes.
But then, as you said, if you have a large number of abstentions, does it still carry,
Well, that's why I'm trying to.
What's required to approve the minutes? Do you need just a quorum?
You have to have a quorum, and then we
quorum
will
has to be
take a
present.
vote.
But you need a majority of those that are
You
voting
need
affirmatively?
you need the simple majority of the quorum present to approve or deny.
And I think an abstention is basically a no in that case, right? Like if
Yeah,
there's
that's
6 people
why-
here and you have 2 abstentions, you still need 4.
I wasn't there for any of those Edgemere Court meetings.
Is that the way?
We can review further with the law department before the meeting.
Because
Oh,
if I
we'll see
recall,
on
that
the
meeting
9th.
only had 6 people, and say, for instance, only 3 of those people show up.
Then what's the
Well, I will look into the minutes and let people know who were there, that we're asking them to come back for that decision.
Yeah. Well, multiples of them are sitting right here, so
Yeah, all the guilty people.
Yeah.
4 of them are here tonight, so hopefully,
Here, right?
hopefully they are.
It's the regular meeting, folks. We don't want to have a special meeting, I guess. That's, so even if you were not there, I think it was important to have the quorum, and obviously the people who were there should be there.
Well, it's not a question of not being there. I already told you I'd be there, but, I end up abstaining on.
We'll talk to the law department.
I mean, I don't think you have to abstain just because you were not
I
at the
think-
meeting. You can review the minutes and the video and say
Right.
that
If you,
Added that if you're absent, you can't really say these minutes are correct.
Well, you could have
no,
watched the video
Say the
and,
grammar is good, but I can't
yeah,
really.
but you can watch the video
and the report.
and report, and you can actually vote on a recommendation, on a decision that was already made.
You're just saying the report accurately reflects what was discussed, as you understand it.
Well, if we start doing that, then everybody shouldn't abstain on minutes anytime now, if you use that rationale.
If the people who abstain have not read the minutes, they have a reason not to. Yeah.
Carlos, I think just in the aspect of the Edgemere Court, if we can get that document as soon as we can before that meeting, just so that we can come prepared.
I talked to the law department, and they will put it together. In fact, I think probably they have a draft by now.
Okay, excellent.
But
Because I know we
as soon as they have
continued
it-
quite a few things to April 9th, and
Yeah.
with the Harley Clark is any indication, I mean, there were several hours spent on that.
And maybe I'm speaking too soon, but they're working on it right now. Yeah.
I think, based on the criteria, Scott, all we have to review all of these, or Carlos can review all these.
All right, here's all the papers.
Floor plan?
I have copies of these.
No, I thought they're no longer allowed to.
Yeah, you can review it.
Turn on your microphone.
Look, we could have saved many trees in the law department.
On the, well, the example was that one case we had today where we were talking about replacing windows and we ended up sending them back. Can you suggest to them, if they present it, that if they're going to do these elevations, have existing and proposed on the same sheet? Because as he, nobody could follow from sheet to sheet. And have the north and the north and the south and the south and so on. It
I
just
always
makes it
do
a lot
that,
clearer.
it's just that they don't come.
I mean,
right now.
several of them did it.
There's a point where I had to have the drawings published.
But then,
They ignored them.
Well, I was going to go and tell the
I'd
silent
be happy to say it
partner.
again, but just to increase his chances, of course. but-
She's across the street from me, so I can ask her.
Remember, like, you could give a different, that's what we give a different designation for the existing window,
Well, but that wasn't the point. The point is you had a sheet of all the existing and a sheet of all the proposed, and nobody could follow.
Okay.
I know, when it's on.
Any other discussion topics?
We do have a discussion, just no, this is not a discussion, it's just a comment on the guidelines. Carlos, I did send you the Word document back. I am still I'm hoping that this can get off the ground and we can put this in place. So just let me know if you want me to come.
I will be looking into it this week. And you asked for a meeting with staff for the IT department?
I want to figure out how to move it
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
I did find that Word document.
Okay, I got it.
Julie, it's over.
No, I know, I'm just one last.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
By Robert, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.